Jasmine Crockett just did something you almost never see in Washington. She stood in front of Congress and apologized. Not for a tweet, not for a scandal, but for what the United States government did to its own citizens. Let that sink in for a second. A sitting member of Congress looked American citizens in the eye, people who were wrongfully detained by ICE, and said, "I'm sorry, the government failed you." Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now here's why this moment is so rare it's almost shocking. Politicians apologize all the time, right? But usually it's damage control, a carefully crafted PR statement, something vague enough to mean nothing. But this was different. Crockett wasn't apologizing for herself. She was apologizing on behalf of the entire federal government, for a system that swept up innocent people, held them without cause, and traumatized them in the process. And she didn't stop there. She told them they were heroes. That history would remember their courage in the face of what she called cowards. That's not typical congressional language. That's raw. That's personal. That's someone who looked at what happened and refused to pretend it was acceptable. Because here's the thing. When a government agency detains its own citizens by mistake, that's not just an oops moment. That's a failure of due process. That's a collapse of the checks and balances that are supposed to protect people from exactly this kind of abuse. And the fact that Crockett felt the need to apologize? That tells you everything about how rare accountability has become in these situations. Most politicians would have dodged it, blamed bureaucracy, said it's complicated, moved on. She didn't, and that's what makes this moment so powerful.
Much, Mr. Ranking Member, and to Senator Blumenthal. You know, I have my prepared remarks, and as I sit here, it is so emotional for me. I just want to say, number one, I am sorry on behalf of the United States government, because regardless of who they claim to be, I am telling you that the best of us is present here, and we represent the United States as well. So I want you to take this heartfelt apology, something that I'm sure that they have not ushered a word to you about. And I also want to acknowledge how heroic you are. We are living in some of the scariest times that this country has ever seen, yet you have not backed down. I have seen your faces more than once. You refuse to go silently and into the dark. You are the light that they are afraid of, and I am so grateful for you being so heroic at such a scary time. When the history books are written, they will know your stories because you decided to be brave in the face of those cowards. So Representative Khanna brought up consequences. And I'm the type of person that is constantly looking for how do we come up with solutions. I became a lawmaker because as a lawyer, I just didn't feel like it was good enough to stand in the courtroom and just argue each case at a time. I wanted to change the laws. And right now, it doesn't seem like we have courage as it relates to the elected officials to do what's right, because this honestly is not right or left. This is right versus wrong. I don't know how any party can say that they are the Christian this or that, and then see this treatment of human beings. I really don't care your status. I get that everyone here today is a United States citizen, but honestly, I have said over and over and over that as a Black woman, all I can think about is the slave patrols. And the reason I bring it up is because history matters. You said it best. You specifically talked about these injustices and how this is circular. That is the truth. But what I'm saying is that if you believe in humanity, if you believe that we live in the land of opportunity and the land of free, then why should it matter that you're just scared about what may be coming for you? You should just be about doing what is right. And that is why I'm so mad. So I want to talk about some things that I want y'all to do, because I know organizations are standing with you. They're supporting you. We know we've got great lawyers. Some of the things that I've been thinking about is this particular president, if you've not noticed, he has somehow managed to let seemingly every terrible criminal he could find go free so long as they are his friends or whatever it is. So I fully anticipate that going forward, he is going to say, everyone that is ICE, you are absolutely going to be protected from any prosecution once we lose, because we're going to lose because these policies are not right. I think it's going to be very important that, number one, you make sure you keep up with any and all evidence that you have of what took place. It's most likely going to be those local prosecutors that are going to have to go after these people. We have to make sure that they are held accountable, because there is no reason for us to have those images and you to have these experiences and you to experience this trauma. And then everybody say, well, we tried our best and our best just wasn't good enough. No, we have got to think outside the box. We have got to be aggressive, and we have to stand up for what is right. I don't care what your color is. I don't care what country you came from. We are a country of immigrants. It is time for us to unite and stop allowing people to divide us. So again, I just wanted to say thank you. I've had a chance to meet some of you before, and with that, I will yield back.
So what makes this moment so powerful? It's not just what Crockett said. It's why she said it. Because apologies like this, they don't happen in Congress, especially not when they involve admitting the government caused harm, real harm, to real people. And that rarity, that's exactly what gives this moment its weight. Crockett's apology wasn't symbolic. It wasn't performative. It was a straight-up acknowledgement that the federal government, through immigration enforcement, inflicted trauma on people who did absolutely nothing wrong, including United States citizens. Let me say that again, United States citizens. This isn't about immigration policy in the abstract. This isn't about border security debates or political talking points. This is about individuals who were detained, terrified, and stripped of their dignity by a system that's supposed to protect their rights, not crush them. And here's where it gets even heavier. Crockett didn't just stop at the apology. She drew a line straight through American history. She brought up slave patrols. And before anyone dismisses that as dramatic, understand this. She's not being rhetorical for shock value. She's pointing to a pattern where enforcement systems expand beyond their original purpose and start sweeping up people who were never supposed to be targets in the first place. History proves it. When fear replaces restraint, civil liberties are always the first thing to go. Always. It happened during slavery. It happened during Japanese internment. It happened during the Red Scare. And it's happening again now. Fear-driven policy doesn't stay contained. It spreads, it expands, and it always reaches people who were promised protection. Now here's the part that should worry everyone, regardless of where you stand politically. Crockett made it clear that trauma doesn't just vanish when the news cycle moves on, or when a political term ends. The people who were detained, they're still carrying that. And if there's no accountability, if there's no consequences, then what's stopping it from happening again? That's why she emphasized something crucial: evidence, documentation, local prosecutors. Because when federal accountability fails, and let's be honest, it fails a lot, justice has to come from somewhere else. And that somewhere is usually local. District attorneys, state courts, communities demanding action. That's not radical. That's literally how the rule of law is supposed to work when the people at the top refuse to act. But here's where it gets even more serious. Crockett also gave a warning. She said this administration is likely going to shield ICE agents from any future consequences. Blanket immunity, a get-out-of-jail-free card for anyone who violated rights in the name of enforcement. And if that happens, democracy weakens. Because when agents of the state believe they'll never face consequences, abuse doesn't stay the exception. It becomes the norm. Accountability isn't about revenge. It's about deterrence. It's the difference between lawful enforcement and unchecked power running wild. Now, one of the most important things Crockett said is this. She made it clear this is not a left versus right issue. She framed it as right versus wrong, a moral question about how a nation treats people when it's scared. Because fear-driven policy, it always expands. It never stays confined to the group it was supposed to target. That's exactly why due process exists. To slow power down, to force the system to think before it harms the innocent. So here's the takeaway. The people who testified at this hearing weren't asking for special treatment. They weren't demanding anything outrageous. They were asking for something incredibly basic: recognition of their humanity, recognition of their rights. And Crockett's apology? It acknowledges something most politicians refuse to admit: that government power, when it's unchecked, can cause deep, lasting harm. and that acknowledging that harm is the very first step towards stopping it from happening again. Because democracy isn't measured by how it treats the powerful. It's measured by how it treats the vulnerable, especially when no one's watching. So if you believe accountability should apply to everyone, if you believe dignity shouldn't depend on fear or politics, then stay engaged. Share this moment. Keep demanding answers. Because silence, that's how injustice survives. Attention? That's how it ends. So don't forget to subscribe to The Domain Fact for more information every day. Thanks for watching.